Got my notes, check. Pepsi, check. Sunglasses, check. Hat, check. Thick skin, check. And sources, check. Let's go. Welcome to Golden Blued, everybody. This is where we cover all of college football. So if you're a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I call my Patreons the shot callers, and I can't wait to live stream some games and watch it with my Patreons and the score prediction contest. That's going to be fun. Let's get one thing straight. Right now, at this point in time, as it stands, the ACC is in trouble. If they stand pat, don't change anything, no changes are made, they are in trouble. Now, what happens in the future? Nobody really knows. There's a lot of things floating out there. I did hear something from Pete the Mel on the Paul Finnenbein show. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. You'll have to Google that. But he said the ACC is looking to go to 20 teams. I mean, that's what they need to do. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, but yes, I would agree with that. That's what the ACC needs to do. So, under the current TV contract, the teams are not getting paid a lot, and they're having to watch the SEC and the Big Ten get these massive renegotiations to where they're going to be making hundreds of millions of dollars per team per year. Here are the expected payouts over the next 8 years. As you can see, there's some big gaps in there. I mean, at the bottom, you have the Pac-12 at $34.4 million per team, and at the top, you have the Big Ten at $57.2 million per team in 2022. This is before the new TV deals for the Big Ten and the SEC kick in. But if you fast forward all the way to 2029, look at these gaps. At the top is still the Big Ten, $129.4 million per team. Then you have the SEC, $117.8 million per team. Then you have the ACC, $61.5 million per team. So third highest, they're not doing as bad as what people think, but still, they have some massive brands that are worth more than that. But then you go down to the Big 12 at $57.5 million per team, and then finally, the Pac-12 at $34.5 million per team. So the difference for the Pac-12 between 2022 and 2029 is $100,000. That's it. That is the reason why USC and UCLA went to the Big Ten. Yes, they knew that the Pac-12 was going to renegotiate this TV deal, and it would probably go up, but it would come nowhere close to what the Big Ten is going to make, and that's why they left. That is the reason, make no mistake. So for the ACC, there's quite a large gap between them and the SEC and the Big Ten. And they still have Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Miami and Louisville. Some pretty good brands in there. They feel like they're worth more than that, and I would agree with them. So that's why ESPN and the ACC are thinking about talking about renegotiating that TV deal. Whether it actually happens or not, I don't know. But it is what they need to do if the ACC wants to continue to exist. So not only renegotiate that TV deal, but adding, expanding, bump up the value even more. Now, my personal opinion, ESPN and the ACC wouldn't even be talking about renegotiating that TV deal unless Notre Dame is involved. Because think about it. ESPN can get pennies on the dollars for those big brands if they stay in the ACC. But if they renegotiate that TV deal, they can bump up the bigger brands up to the SEC, bring in Notre Dame, get some other big brands, and boom, you're making good money off the ACC as well. So it's all about quality, and it's all about bringing up your value. So according to Pete the Mel on the Paul Finnenbein show, Jim Phillips wants to expand the ACC to 20 teams. Notre Dame would have to be a big part of that. If Notre Dame doesn't continue to at least be affiliated with the ACC, it's not going to happen. They would not be talking about renegotiating that TV deal if Notre Dame wasn't involved. And I've heard from Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame boards, and all kinds of people associated with Notre Dame that Notre Dame does want to join the ACC full-time in 2025 when their NBC contract is up. However, Notre Dame could still stay independent and just be affiliated with the ACC, and that would still help the ACC, as long as they can keep them from going to the Big Ten or being affiliated with the Big 12. I made a video on that yesterday. So expanding to 20 teams, who does Jim Phillips have in mind? Well, first, try to get Notre Dame. That's the first candidate on the list. But if you can't get Notre Dame, there is some other options as long as you keep Notre Dame affiliated with the ACC. At bare minimum, you have to keep them affiliated. So who are they looking at? Well, first off, West Virginia. Yes, West Virginia out of the Big 12. It does add value to the ACC. It adds value to West Virginia. And reliable sources are telling me that West Virginia is talking to everybody. Doesn't mean that they've made a decision or they know what they're going to do. West Virginia is talking to everybody, which means West Virginia has talked to the Pac-12 to see what they're going to do. Merger or not. Well, that came crashing down. Talks have subsided. That's not going to happen. Talks in the Big Ten. Is there any shot? Probably zero chance they go to the Big Ten. SEC, hey, how long do we have to wait to get to the SEC? What are our options? What do we have to do? They've been telling the SEC, and definitely the ACC. From my understanding, they've actually been talking to the ACC longer than anybody else. So we'll see what actually happens. But the ACC is interested in West Virginia, and West Virginia is interested in the ACC. But there's some other teams that the ACC is interested in. Washington, the second biggest brand in the Pac-12. You grab that Seattle TV market, and boom, you make the ACC the second coast-to-coast conference along with the Big Ten. I think that would help with recruiting. That would boost your West Coast recruiting by a pretty good margin, in my opinion. Next team, Oregon. Oregon's actually probably higher than Washington. They are the biggest brand in the Pac-12. You do get the Oregon footprint and a nice TV audience. No real massive city you're gaining, but you're gaining a great fan base, a lot of support. They would make the ACC some money. Then there's Cincinnati. Yes, the ACC is interested in Cincinnati. I'm not so sure about this one, but this is what I heard. You would get an Ohio footprint, and of course the city of Cincinnati. The problem with Cincinnati is their fan base is pretty small. Well, Golden Blue Dude, they're in the city of Cincinnati. That's a pretty big city. That's like over 2 million people. That's true, but most of those 2 million people are Ohio State fans. So you have to compete with Ohio State for fans. So I'm not sure about this choice, but the ACC is interested in Cincinnati. They're also interested in Arizona State. That one surprised me as well. You get the Arizona footprint, yes, some piece of the Phoenix TV market. So that would only make sense if you bring in Arizona as well. And that would be the next team. Arizona with Arizona State. You wrap up the Arizona-Phoenix market. It helps with recruiting out west. And once again, it solidifies the ACC being a coast-to-coast conference. Then there's Stanford, a California footprint. And you keep Notre Dame intrigued in the ACC. I think Stanford is a more important option than people realize. That would almost guarantee that Notre Dame at least stays interested in the ACC. That would actually be a good pickup by the ACC and solidify your coast-to-coast conference. And then they want a Texas school, whether it's Baylor, SMU, Houston, TCU, or Texas Tech. I think the best choice would actually be Texas Tech. Don't get mad at me, Baylor fans. All I know is Texas Tech has the bigger fan base. They make the most money. They get the biggest support. That's why I'd go Texas Tech. But Baylor would be a good option as well. Baylor's brand, as far as value, is at an all-time high right now. That would be a great massive gift for the ACC. What about SMU? I mean, they're a decent group of 5. I'm just not sure how good their fan base is as far as how much they support their team. They have the potential of being a good TV market. I just don't think the interest is high there. What about TCU? Well, TCU is near the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They are a Power 5 school. They are in the state of Texas. So yes, I would agree that would be a decent choice for the ACC, but I would take Baylor and Texas Tech over TCU. And then there's Houston. Houston has a lot of potential. They do. They're in the top 5 city as far as population. Problem with Houston, they have to compete with Texas A&M, Texas, Baylor, and Texas Tech for fans. So if you're going to go with a Texas school, I would go with either Texas Tech or Baylor. And if you add those schools, then ESPN would be confident in bumping up Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, and Virginia up to the SEC and still be okay with the ACC. Hey, they're not going to go under. We're still going to make money off of them. Even though we bumped up the top brands, they went out and got some other great brands, so the ACC is still going to be in good shape. So it's a win-win for the ACC, and it's a win-win for ESPN. Is this going to happen? I have no idea. All I'm saying is if the ACC doesn't do something, they're not going to exist for very much longer. 2036 at the most, because that's the biggest pushback that I get. Those grant of rights have them locked in. Okay? Well, even if they can't figure out a way around that, or if they don't renegotiate the TV deal, then 2036 is the shelf life for the ACC. It will be over by then. So the ACC has to do something right now if they want to exist beyond 2036. We'll see if they actually do that. John Swafford screwed the ACC, and Jim Phillips is trying to save the ACC. Y'all let me know in the comments section, do you think the ACC will indeed exist past 2036? If you do think they will, what moves do you think the ACC is going to make? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.